Thank you. So you'll have to be a little bit quiet because my voice is not feeling so well this morning. It's not because I had too many drinks yesterday. That would have been nicer for me, but we're going. I shouldn't say trying. We're going to do part presentation, part demo because that's more fun. Because we need a number of different tools and a number of different operating systems, it might require some juggling. So bear with us. What we want to talk about is basically this PDFUA. I suspect that most of you know what PDFUA is, but I think it's good to go over some theory, just a little bit, and we won't get too technical about things. We want to cover validation because that's one of the important aspects, and in order that you don't need validation or not as much, we want to talk about conversion or creation of PDFUA documents. If you're making well in the first place, you don't need to do much cleaning up afterwards. So let's talk about the theory first. PDFUA is an ISO standard. You have the full number there. And it's really all you should know is that it's a definition, an official definition of what is an accessible PDF. I think Olaf made a comment yesterday about being brave enough to read these things. I think that goes for this PDFUA standard document as well. It's pretty dry, pretty technical. But it is important, and it's mostly important because it very clearly defines the rules. And having very clearly defined rules means that if you have legislation about accessibility, all of a sudden it becomes much easier to enforce. Because everyone knows or is supposed to know what the rules are, you can enforce those rules much more easily as in laws or in legislation. If you have countries or institutions where new legislation is put into effect, it's much easier to now do the right thing because you can just reference, if you're talking about PDF, you can just reference this ISO document that explains very clearly what the rules are. And for software and hardware, it's also much easier to do the right thing. I think it sometimes seems like vendors don't want to do the right thing or don't know how to. If you give them a clear set of guidelines, most developers can actually follow that and implement something that makes sense. So PDFUA as the ISO standards takes away a lot of the burden of trying to figure out what the right thing is. Now, these are some of the rules put in more or less human language rather than specification language. And I don't want to spend too much time on this. What I want to show is which of these rules, and I'm going to skip that and go directly to this, which of these rules can be validated easily by a computer. Now, all the things that are in green can be validated by a computer. I am actually breaking the rules here myself because I'm using a color and just a color to transmit information, which is actually the last point on the slide, so don't do this if you're trying to make it accessible. But these things can be controlled. I can write a piece of software that can tell me whether all of the text in the document is tagged with a language identifier. It's pretty easy to do. However, all of the things that are now in red, you actually need a human being to do the checking. And some of these overlap. Again, coming back to the language identifier, yes, I can very easily write software that checks that the text is identified with the language identifier. There is a tag there that says what language that particular text is. However, to know whether the text is English or Dutch or German, whether the right language has been associated with it, that's a lot more difficult. Software can probably still do that if you think long enough about it. But some things are exceedingly difficult for a computer program to check. That color or contrast thing, for example, that's really difficult. As a human, I can tell that I'm using red here to convey information. For a software package, whether that red is actual essential information or whether it's a little bit of design that I threw in, is very difficult to discriminate against. So some of the checking is possible with computer, some of it is possible only by human checking. Now, let me see if we can prove that point by showing you two pieces of software. And for the first one, I need Windows. So what I have here is a Windows computer, and on there you have the PDF accessibility checker that has been on screen already, I believe. So I'll just start that and show the result. And this is the document I'm testing here is a document I downloaded from the accessible forms section from the IRS in the US. So you would think it would pass. Rather sadly, it does not. And you can see some of the problems identified with the red crosses in there. Some of it is about content. If I come back to the language thing I talked about before, so in this document there is no identification of the language that is actually used. Because
you expect that in a tax form?
So it's an English tax form, but it hasn't been tagged as English. So if you have a Spanish gentleman that tries to read this with his software, it's not going to work very well because it will be a very bad English-Spanish accent. So the document is not accessible, and that's not, well, it is bad by itself, but the main thing is that you get this very neat list of errors and things that were good in this document, and it would be tempting to assume that this is the complete collection of things that are wrong with this document. What I'm trying to make you understand is that that's not true. Yes, these are things that are wrong and they should definitely be fixed. But remember that this is a piece of software that's checking this. So you also need, in addition, a human to look at this. And the second tool is actually doing exactly that. It's taking a completely different approach. So I'm going to go back here, and then it's not open anymore in Acrobat, so let me open that up. This is the same PDF file that I'm opening up now. And I will use a different tool, which is PDF Go HTML, a free plugin for Adobe Acrobat. And if I run that, it uses the tagging information in the PDF, and it converts the PDF into an HTML file using that tagging information. And at the top here, you can see that it's capable of displaying different ways to look at the document. I can go to here, and while it might not look as good anymore, this gives you a very clear indication of how the text in that document was tagged. And for example, you can see an H1 heading here that is empty. That's probably not correct. If you use this view, not only can you see what the tags are that are used, but you can actually see, as a human being, whether those tags were used correctly or not. And that's the second part of the puzzle. So PAC is really good to give you a low-level appreciation of whether a PDF document is good, whether everything that humanly, or possibly, that's a wrong way of stating it, possibly can be checked by a piece of software is actually correct in the PDF document. But if you use a tool like PDF Go HTML, you get a view of how a human would use that information that is in the file. If you have a screen reader, that screen reader would use the exact same information in that PDF to do its job. So if that is not correct, the screen reader is not going to do it correct as well. Okay. And that's for the validation part. So the next part is then, how do you convert these files, or how do you create a correct PDF UA file to begin with?
I pressed the button and it seems to work. So hello everybody, my name is Michael Karbe. Okay. I'm running a company called Actino Software, and we are, like some others, now for also 20 years in the PDF space as a company who resell and develop solutions for special PDF topics. So I have been asked to give some kind of overview on available tools to address accessibility, tagged PDF or PDF UA. So I prepared some kind of overview, and but this has no 100%, so I took some major tools, did not try to bring everything on the table which is available for accessibility. You have already seen the validation software, which is free available. I think this should be mentioned as a PAC tool. It's available for Windows. It's free for everybody. And I have learned that there will also be a German version available soon. And I can speak from many projects that this is very helpful to have this kind of validator to give customer the security that their products, their documents really address the criteria for being accessible. So let's go in what I've prepared, starting with creating PDF, tagged PDF from Office type application like Microsoft Office or LibreOffice. You may have seen that Office provide an export feature to PDF, which looks like this. And when you have a look at this dialog, you see that there's this little check mark, document structure text for accessibility. So when you click this little button and export in PDF, you will get a tagged PDF. So the result will be a fully tagged PDF. A similar result you will receive when you use a tool like Adobe Acrobat PDF Maker. There's a similar option, and this will also create tagged PDF, which has text for all content of the document. Only for 100% reason, Alison, you never can use a printer driver to create tagged PDF because that kind of structured information cannot be transferred by using a printer driver. But the real truth is when you use this this option to create tagged PDF, you end up with a document. When you then take the PDF accessibility checker to validate, you will get a long list of warning, errors or problems which force some remediation work to make your document PDF UA compliant or real accessible. So these tools are nice, but in the past when we made projects and we used this feature, then opened the PDF and made a validation, it turns out that we finally removed all the tags and started to tag again inside PDF to have a proper result. This was faster than trying to correct what happened when you use this tool. So because of this situation, there are two companies who developed tools for Microsoft Office to create tagged PDF or PDF UA by one click from Microsoft Office. This is Access PDF Word from XY Media, and you may have seen Jens in the morning, and I invited him for a little bit longer practical demo after I'm completed. And there's another vendor from the US. It's a company called NetCentrics. They have a product called Common Look Office Pro. That's a today name. And this also allows you to prepare your document already inside Word in a way that the export result in an proper PDF UA format. So this will not be shown today, but there are plenty of webinars available in the internet. So if it's interesting for you, go for it and have a look at those introductions. So, but there's not only Office, there are of course other tools, other applications on the market used to generate layout. I think the most popular is InDesign. And for InDesign there's a tool called Made to Tag available. Olaf presented this in the 5 minutes this morning, so I've here just some screenshots for you. It's finally the same idea, so doing all the tagging already inside the layout, the source application, because this gives you the opportunity to modify and change the content in a way like you mentioned color or other things which are not possible in when it's already a PDF. So it's much easier and more effective to do it within the source application. The other tools which also support export to text PDF like FrameMaker 3v2, and I'm personally not aware of Quark Express providing features in that direction. Maybe one day, but not today. Yeah, the other part is when there's already PDF, which is not yet tagged, so it's coming from somewhere, and you do not have the source application available, so you do not have the Word file, you do not have the InDesign document. You're forced to do the tagging inside your PDF editing application. And Adobe Acrobat is still the major tool and also provide many features to do tagging inside Adobe Acrobat. So you have all the features to generate a tree like you see here on my screen. But also from a productivity point of view, Acrobat already provides many features, but when it comes to larger documents, larger volumes which need to be managed, some, let me say, more professional tools are required. And here again we see the same vendor like XY Media and Netcentric, who provide tools which take the PDF and do the remediation as automatic, as fast, as productive as possible. And we will also see a quick fix after my presentation, and the other application from Netcentric where so you can again recommend to have a look in the internet and monitor the webinars which are available. So in the end, this was all about manual PDF UA creation or remediation. There are a number of libraries available which automatically generate tagged PDF or the PDF UA. Some brands already have been listed. Bruno mentioned the iText. Olaf Dietrich mentioned PDF Chip. PDF Lib is another name in the market. Adobe, of course, also provide functionality in that direction. And this is, of course, a very recommended way that you have an, let me say, an automated environment which directly create PDF UA without any manual remediation work. So again, this is not complete. There are other players in the market. So, but if this is an interesting topic for you, these are of course some names which address this topic, and the PDF UA standard help a lot to see how good they address it as a accessibility story. So that's my short overview on tools which are available to achieve PDF UA or accessible documents. So I would like now to hand over to Jens for a practical demo, in case there are no questions right now to David or to me right now.
Any questions so
Okay.
far? So Jens will be next.
Okay. Switch to Windows.
Maybe I should switch this on. Yeah, just push it. Like this.
So, can everybody hear?
Good. So you have 10 minutes now.
10 minutes.
Double the time than in the morning.
And I have 2 tools to present here.
You have actually more time. So we started at 10, so you just take your time.
Okay, we'll see how much time we'll end up with. But as you saw this morning, is there something scratching here? Or? No, it's okay. As you saw this morning, was just making a conversion of Access PDF for using Access PDF for Word. Now I'd like to show you what I exactly did in creating a fully accessible PDF. Yes. I'm very sorry that this is in Danish, but I hope you will see what is headings, what is not, and what is not. Does anybody speak Danish at all in here? Oh, there's one there. Oh, somebody will actually be able to read this. The top is actually just meaning content, and the rest are just headings through the documents. What I would like to do is actually press Shift F1 so you can actually see the formatting of the text here. So what we say is that you should actually just use Word as it is intended to. If you use a heading and it's at level 1, you should use the built-in headings for creating heading level 1 in Word. And as you can see here, I have actually a heading 1 here, and up here I have another one. It may not be a heading 1, but it actually at the outline level 1, which means that it actually is a heading level 1. You can call it anything you want, as long as it's level 1, it's a heading level 1. I have more headings here. As you can see here, it's heading 2, and it is at level 2. I have a heading here, which is at level 3, and so on and so on. And if you make lists, make sure that it is actually lists. And if you create footnotes, that you actually use the built-in footnote tool. And if you create tables, this works completely opposite of what I thought, that you actually use the table tool in Word. So this is basically a document that is created as it should be. You have actually made the headings, you have actually used the list tool, you have actually used the table tool. One thing that professional template designers often do is create layout tables. I'll just switch this off, and then I'll actually switch on the Access PDF toolbar. Very often they create templates using layout tables, because tables is actually the only way to control your layout on a page. So, but what you also do doing that is that you actually make some structured information that you don't need or is wrong for that element. And that is why Access PDF has built something in there. You see here a tool called Show Role Mapping. And when if you're outside here, you don't see anything, but if you're inside a table, then you can see that you suddenly get some extra features out here. And if it's a table, you get the option here, is this, you can use it as a default, is this a real table or is it a layout table? In this case, it's clearly a layout table. Now you get a second option if it's a layout table. How do you want to read the content in that layout table? Do you want it to read from left, right, top, bottom, in that direction, in this, like this? Or if you have two opposed images next to each other with each note to it, then you will probably have it read like top, down, left, right. And you can actually choose whatever reading order you want to have inside that layout table. The only thing that is very important is that you actually mark it as a layout table, because creating the PDF afterwards, this table information will be stripped of the content or the logical structure. On the other hand, if you have a real table, like here, you can choose that this is a table, a default table. But there's also a hierarchy in a table. As you can see, there are clearly a number of column headers, and there are also a number of row headers in this. Now, in any other software, you're not able to get that information into the PDF afterwards. We have changed that with Access PDF for Word, because if you look at this, I will try to put this on again. As you can see here, I've actually made a paragraph style, which converted means table column header, and out here I've made a table row header. And what you have the possibilities to do if you go into the document settings of Access PDF for Word, you can see all the styles used in the Word file. And if I have the table column header, then I can actually assign a role to that style. In this case, it is a header cell. And what I would like to do with it, I can choose, is it a column header, a row header, or is it both? Those are the options you have in a PDF. And likewise, done with a row header, I have made it into a header cell and made the scope to a row header. Very often you also have, if you look at the list here, you may want an extra paragraph inside that list. I have here a paragraph style, yeah, whatever it's called in English. You can go to the document settings, and if I can find it here somewhere,
Look for the O.
yeah, there it is. Because it's still a part of the list, and then you can actually assign a role to it. It says the list continues, so this paragraph will actually stay inside the list. No other tool will do that. That will actually make a paragraph and split the list into two lists, which is structurally wrong because it's still one list. So you have all kinds of options to assign roles to it, and if you come to an image or a figure like this, you also get the role mapping here. I'll just switch this off. Is this actually a figure that you want to be part of the structure? Of course you would like that for a chart like this. You can choose if it's a figure, you can choose if it's a formula, or if it's an artifact. And if you choose artifact, this figure will actually not be part of the logical structure afterwards. No other tool is able to do that for you either. In this case, we choose the figure, and you have a very easy access to add an alternative text to that figure. I will try to put on the show height, the structuring in here. I have deliberately put in two empty paragraphs, and in one paragraph I've actually added a lot of extra spaces into it. Now, that is actual information, but quite often, and this is something you probably agree you quite often see in a Word file, that empty paragraphs are everywhere. And if you convert that into an accessible PDF, you will actually get these empty paragraphs into. But if you have a screen reader who wants to read this, they will be announced as blank. Something will be announced as blank. At least some of them. I don't think JAWS does, but I think NVDA does. But some of the screen readers actually announce these empty paragraphs as blank. And if you have 10 of those, you'll have to go through 10 blanks before you actually come to the next one. And that's why we have introduced in the conversion process that these empty paragraphs are stripped off, so they will not be a part of the structure afterwards, because they have no semantic meaning anyway. So now we're actually ready to do what I did and create. Remember to make the document title here and the primary document title, which will be Danish. I hope somebody will confirm that that is true. And just press create. And this is actually just the process I just showed you this morning. And what it additionally does is, out of the headings, also create bookmarks and actually display the bookmarks in the PDF afterwards. So once it has created all the logical structure, created the bookmarks, then you have here a fully accessible PDF and a software expire. With all the headings in the bookmarks here displayed in the right order as a heading level 2, heading 3, probably indented according to this. And if you look at the structure, can we have the structure? Here it is. And as you saw, there were all the empty paragraphs are stripped off. If you look at the table, and actually I would like to, because it gives me the option of going straight to quick fix, which was the next tool. And open, I think it's a desktop. Yeah, let's do the checking first, and as you can see, all green, or in this case not green, but all check marks for all accessibility issues. And if you go to the preview, which is also built in, this checker in QuickFix is actually the same as Pack 2, only built into QuickFix. Look at the preview. See the structure here with the top eye, and actually links I will show you in accurate how it works. All the headings are there, the list are properly made. And have a look at the table here. Column headers on top and row headers on the side. All built in automatically because you made some decent styling in your Word file. And footnote, we have decided that these are placed at the end of the document, but on top of that, because then you can read the document without being disrupted by footnote that has no meaning in that place, but you can choose to go to it because we have linked it, which we can show by going, is it open? Not anymore. Where is Acrobat? Is it in the... Well, I don't know if that's in the...
I use it on Mac.
Is it on Mac? So I'll try to open it this way. And where do I?
Just double click on while you're on Windows, it should open.
As you can see, I'm not a Mac user.
Just go to Windows.
Where? This?
Just forget about the Mac. Just go to Windows.
Where do we find desktop? There it is. Or what? No.
It's not the same desktop. Just go to Windows.
Okay.
Yep, double click.
Just double click.
This.
It is doing
Go
something.
to the start button on the lower left. You should see Acrobat.
At the top.
Second top.
You could use Reader.
We will try Reader. And I think I'll actually try to make it, because as you can see, there are links on the table of contents as well, and these links actually go straight to the heading. And this is not just a PDF UA thing, but it's also a screen reader thing, because when you do it like this, then the screen reader will actually start reading at this heading instead of just going to the page. And if we have a look at the footnote, these are linked as well. Go straight to the note, and we have provided a link back to the reference as well. So this is actually Access PDF for Word. Any questions so far?
Yeah, but more for the reader side. I mean, for the user side. If you use a accessible document as a, let's see, as a blind person, I have no experience with these readers. How do you call these things?
Screen readers.
Screen readers. Yeah. When you open a document, when a seeing person opens a document, it scans things. Does these screen readers support this? And what do you have to do to support this functionality here? I mean,
Well,
like obviously first you read headers and then maybe bullets.
Well, the first thing you actually read when you open a screen reader is the title of the document, and that is actually something you provide here as well, because it's called Access for Word test document. So that will be the first thing read out loud. And what a screen reader user would typically do is looking for headers on a page. Well, how many headers are on a page? Because you can have them all displayed, and you can have displayed just the heading level 1s, or you can have all the heading levels, or maybe heading level 2. That's his choice, but he has the same ability like you and me to actually navigate through the document and find exactly what he's looking for. And the same with tables. If you make a hierarchy in a table, then it is actually have a row header in it. Then you can actually get the information that in 2008 you have 3,700 people on this particular education, university education.
Does it always repeat these row headers?
I'm not completely familiar with how what it does with this, but at least they have the option of doing that. But not providing that information, you don't have the option. Then you're really blind.
Totally lost,
then you're totally lost, and you can get lost in a big table like this. And now you're actually able to navigate through it.
Well, I was wondering whether there are more things that you can help to, scan. Of course, you can add an abstract for the document, I guess, and things like that. What the document is about.
They do pretty much the same as we do. It's totally astonishing to see it in practice.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I would go mad, I think, if I do it.
I wouldn't do
They
anything
listen to
special.
it very quickly, and they do the scanning, and they know all the shortcuts to
Oh,
go, for
yeah.
example, over the heading level 1 and then heading level 2, which allows them to very quickly navigate through the document to the piece they actually want to read.
Yeah.
And then the screen reader will read it for them. But so it uses the same structure as you have. As long as you put the heading structures correctly in there, they have what it takes to navigate the documents.
Okay.
So you don't provide something extra for disabled people. You present it as you would see it as a normal seeing person.
I think adding a structure is already a lot.
That is the most important thing you
Yes,
can do,
yes.
and actually make the content in the right order, because if you actually used Word 2010 to do this conversion, any of the images would stay up on top of the hierarchy. You would get, if you had 20 images on a page, those would be the first 20 things on the page. So this is taken completely out of the context. And the reading order and the heading structure are two of the most important things. Yeah.
How I managed those important tables, like it's only idiots who make tables with Word. They are using Excel for that and just importing those. How it does work in there?
How does what work?
If you import an Excel table to Word,
yeah,
which is the normal way how you if you create a document where you have tables, you have calculations in Excel and you bring those as an Excel table inside the Word.
Yeah, but if you put it inside Word, you make sure that it's also a table in Word. That is the most important thing that it is.
And how about the JPEG pictures?
Sorry?
JPEG pictures.
Pictures of tables is a bad idea. A very bad idea.
So it's always better to forget the Word on that piece.
Yeah, but or you make a very long alternative text. But I wouldn't recommend that.
Okay.
And about the Word, is it possible to handle merge cells or
Absolutely.
split it cells?
Absolutely. There's no problem in that. Just make sure that it's still a simple table. Because if you start making complex tables, then you have extra work afterwards. Because then you can't use the scope attributes for row heading and column heading. Then you have to start using headers and IDs, and that is extra work afterwards. We do not support that yet, but we intend to implement that in Access PDF for Word as well, an option for that.
But that would be quite complex.
Yeah, complex tables. Normal recommendation is split them up in smaller tables. That could be a way to overcome that problem.
Suppose that you would have a spider chart. So that's a chart that looks like a spider web, and you have values there. That's actually a table, but it doesn't look like a table at first sight. Is it possible to add this table structure? So add a table that isn't visible when you print it or when somebody... Is it possible to add the tables, like a virtual table structure?
Not in Word. I don't think you can do that in Word. Then you have to remediate it afterwards. But yes, that is possible to do it, but you have to do some remediation afterwards. I have quite often done that myself.
Alternative table.
Yeah, that's because you were talking about a large alternative text. I was thinking, can we have an alternative table?
I don't know how much time I have left, but I could probably, if I could just quickly show another. This is actually also a Danish document, but in English. Sometimes, if you have a desire to remediate some accessible PDFs yourselves, we have created the tool Quick Fix for doing that. So fixing some of the most normal problems that you see in a PDF. And here you see that there are still some warnings and there are some errors in this document. And if you just have a look at it, one of the most common thing is that tag content and artifacts, and what it is that there are some objects in this document that is not actually tagged, or at least not marked as artifacts. Now I know that this is actually fully tagged. Everything that I wanted in the tag structure is actually in the tags here. So once I know that, I have an option here on the content side to say the rest is just artifacts. And then you say artifact, non-tag content. And if you try to make a new refreshment here, and then you'll actually see that you have reduced. There were 53 errors here before, now there's only 5 left. I'll leave this one for last. If you look at the logical structure, you see that some elements are wrong here. Then there are notes in this, but there are, according to PDF UA, I don't remember the failure condition in the Matterhorn protocol, but every note should have an ID. This is not automatically done by normal tools, so what you can do is, it's probably here, yeah, you can add note IDs to all the notes, yes?
I'm curious, you have the content accessibility checker, which is an open source solution. I presume your checker there is a variation on that.
Yes, it is.
Why would you not use the Acrobat checker? Or what differences are there between the two tools?
One is good and the other is not. Let me say that because so PAC is really the first tool that actually does checking in conformance with the PDF UA standard, and the Acrobat accessibility checker goes back to some development quite a few years ago, and so far it does not even claim conformance with PDF UA. It claims that it can help you with PDF UA, but it's far from being complete. This may change in the future, but it's just a take on Adobe on checking accessible tag PDF files before the invention of PDF UA. They still have to make it fully conforming, and if you're really heading for PDF UA conformance, then currently PDF accessibility checker and any derivative thereof is your only option to get a full check.